All right. I think we're on. Why is it that every time I start a live broadcast, this one has to get in the act? Hey, a lot of people are there, Tim. This is great. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Healthy Living Live. I'm Chef AJ, and my guest today is Tim Kaufman of Fat Man Rants. I actually met Tim for the first time yesterday for a few minutes while we were testing the technology, so I really look forward to getting to know him better and hear his story. He was referred by our mutual friend, BJ Swingle, who is an ultimate weight loss superstar. And when I asked him yesterday how he would like to be introduced, he said, yeah, just say a regular guy who lost a bunch of weight. So please welcome the regular guy who lost a bunch of weight, Tim Kaufman. Hi, Tim. So nice to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I've heard about you peripherally, but I'm really excited to talk to you in person because I know a little bit more about you now since preparing for this interview. I've watched some of your things online. I particularly enjoyed your interview with Jason on the Big Change film, and I got a hold of your book. I was going to show it here. Yes, right here, your book. It's an ebook, but I always print my ebooks out because I'm old. It's called Fat Man's Essential 40 Plant-Based Recipes, Quick and Easy Plant-Based Foods. So I'm sure we're going to get to talk about that. But first of all, why don't we just talk about who you are in case some of our viewers are not quite familiar with your story?
First of all, congrats on your book too.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind.
And there's actually a reason why I asked you to introduce me as just a normal guy, because I try to make sure on every interview, every presentation I do, I want to let people know that I have like a really cool life now, and I do a lot of presentations. I do a lot of giving back, and by rights, I would just close the door and move on with my awesome life. But the reason I do what I do and invest so much time in it is because I know that what I did is 100% repeatable. It's out there for anyone. There's nothing special about me. People say they wish they had my willpower and stuff, but this was never, if I had willpower, I would have never got over 400 pounds. So that's why I like people to know that I'm just a normal guy. And then I think that's super important. This is out there for everyone. There's no magic pill. It's just there. It's just getting educated, really.
Wow. Great. Well, I don't know exactly what part of your story you want to start with, but one of the things that I thought was really interesting is that you were actually considering gastric bypass surgery at one point, and you were actually turned down. So that was really quite fortunate when you think about it.
Yeah, I tell people it's the best thing that never happened to me, actually. But so just to give you a little, I want to try to keep my backstory kind of brief because there's so much, and I feel like we spend so much time on it, and I don't know if that really helps people. So I'll try to condense it like super fast. I have a genetic disease called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. And basically what that is the collagen in my body has a mutation. So all the connective tissue that holds me together is super stretchy. So I dislocate a lot. I twist ankles a lot. My knees aren't together. And so we found this out after I got like a major surgery on my shoulder. I would actually sneeze and my shoulder would fall out of the socket. And this is back in my 20s. But fast forward, probably the biggest thing that came out of that is when I left the hospital, I was given a big bottle of Lortabs, and I had never had pain medicine in my life. And I can remember taking it for the first time, and it felt so good to have the pain kind of numbed. I mean, I was in chronic pain. I had arthritis, like really bad arthritis in my 20s already. One doctor looked at my knee in my early 20s and said that my knee needed to be replaced. But then I can remember sitting there and he said, but we couldn't waste the titanium because there's nothing to hold the knee together. So they actually had disability papers out for me, and we had just started a family, and I said, that's not going to happen. So long story short, I walked out of the hospital with painkillers. I can remember taking, for the first time, it felt awesome. And, through the years, the painkillers kept getting more and more. I built up such a tolerance that I found myself just kind of upping the doses. The doctor would up the dose, and then we'd up the type of medicine. So I went from like Lortab to Percocet to OxyContin. And then I landed on this drug called fentanyl. And back then, fentanyl wasn't a thing. It wasn't like in the media like it is now. And I can remember that I just wanted to be out of pain. That's all I wanted. And, along with the opioids, I picked up an alcohol addiction as well, a pretty severe one. And it's kind of weird that the opioid addiction and food addiction, it kind of had a lot of the same identical effects. Like, fast food was my thing. I used to eat fast food at least 3 times a day. So I can remember that same kind of feeling. Like it was almost like I was at the pharmacy, waiting for my script. And you get that, a little bit of excitement. It sounds weird talking about getting excited about food, but and then, they would give you the food and, I would eat it. It would taste great for a couple minutes. And then the wrappers would be on the floor and I'd feel guilty. And it was the same exact thing with the opioids, like I'd wait for them. You'd get a little bit excited. You get them, you feel great for a little bit and then it's gone and you got to go try to get it again. So it's pretty interesting how similar they are, but I'll just take you right up. I'll fast forward through my entire story and take you right up to the worst part. By about 38 years old, I was over 400 pounds. My doctor says that I was well over 400 pounds. Like, I don't know how much over 400 that was. I was on the max dose of fentanyl. And at night, it was nothing for me to take 15 to 20 painkillers on top of the fentanyl. Fentanyl is kind of I did a transdermal patch. So basically I had a constant supply of fentanyl in my blood 24/7. And then I would use other pills like the Oxycontins and stuff for breakthrough medicine. And then I would actually wash all that down with an entire liter of vodka.
Jeez.
And then I would go to bed. And it wasn't once a night. I didn't go out partying. I didn't go to bars and stuff. I just literally wanted to sleep through the night pain-free. That was my goal. And it turned into a routine. My blood pressure was 255 over 115. My resting heart rate was 125. Cholesterol always over 300. I was on at least 20 different prescriptions a month. I couldn't even fit everything in one of those pill planner things. There were nights that I went to bed, and I don't think I was suicidal per se, but there were nights that I went to bed and I didn't know if I'd wake up. My kidneys had shut down a couple times. I knew exactly why. But I didn't know if I was going to wake up, and I don't know as if I really cared. I was tired. I just wanted to be out of pain. That's basically my whole backstory real fast.
So was the pain really from having this congenital disease? Is that where the pain originated originally, was because of this syndrome you had?
I think it's certainly started there. If you sprain your ankle, it hurts. And
Sure.
So basically every day, every time I moved, something was getting sprained. I always was in crutches, always in, some kind of air cast. I had a cane. But so I think it started that way. But the weird thing about addiction is when you get too far down the road, you think you have control over it. But when you get too far down the road, you're actually taking medicine to feel normal. I wasn't trying to get rid of pain at the end. I would take 15 pills just so I could feel functional, just so I could get, to be normal. I never got back what I used to get in the beginning. So the other thing is emotional pain. I think I was just trying to escape reality, all the way around, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything, just trying to escape everything and just kind of be in this timeout place because I couldn't stand reality.
Wow. It's incredible that you were able to just get so many drugs that no doctor ever just said, "Hey, Tim, enough, I'm cutting you off."
Well, the other, I had a legit thing, and I knew how to play the system. It wasn't quite like it is now with everything computerized. A lot of it was handwritten scripts. If I did it right, I could go to 2 doctors on the same day so they wouldn't cry. And I knew what I was doing. I knew exactly what the insurance company would allow for me to oops, I spilled my pills, or, a patch fell off. That was a good one. I was going on vacation. I knew all the ways to get extra.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, well, good for you, Tim, not just for all the weight you lost, but just the fact that you could get off those other addictive substances, booze and pills. A lot of people can't, as I'm sure you know.
Right. Yeah, I'm very blessed for sure.
Absolutely. Well, just congratulations on that. It just seems that so many people that have one addiction often have other cross addictions too.
Yeah, I think I always tell my mom like the one thing that she did give me that was real special was an addictive personality, and everything is like full bore. It's kind of crazy. But I think if you know you have that, you can kind of protect yourself from it by keeping, like, I would never buy a lottery ticket because I would lose my house in a year. Like, I know
Right.
what not to do.
Yeah.
And, it's the same with alcohol, drugs, food. Like, I know that I cannot go near it because I don't have the control to just have a little bit. So,
Absolutely. It's like the only bite sip you can refuse is the first one. So,
right.
and even though I thankfully never got into drugs and alcohol, I knew I had that kind of brain, and I could see it because I'm since the age of 4, I was enthralled with Las Vegas. I thought, boy, this is the coolest thing ever. Put money in a machine and maybe more comes out. So, what do you think? When I was listening to your story on the Big Change interview, it seemed to me, and I might be putting words in your mouth, that one of your rock bottoms was your wife was putting your socks on, and you saw the pain in her eyes, and you said that okay, maybe not do this for me, but do this for my family. Was that your rock bottom, or were there other rock bottoms, or maybe there were many rock bottoms?
Yeah, I think through the course there's a lot of rock bottoms, and I think like each thing kind of had its rock bottom. Like, there were things like, my wife Heather, she knew that I was drinking, but like I say, it wasn't like a normal person drinking. Like, I literally just drank for 20 minutes a day, but it was massive amount just to pass out, really. But I would do stuff like when she left the house to go shopping, then I would try to because I would put all my empty bottles in the closet. And so I had my own closet. She had her closet, and I would pull the bag out to try to get it outside before she came home, just so she wouldn't know the volume. And like, I remember picking up a bag one time, and it was like an entire like garbage bag just full. I was going through it so fast, but so I don't know if that was rock bottom, but it definitely made me feel like crap. But the way addiction works, you feel like crap, so I better have a couple of drinks so I don't feel like crap.
Oh my goodness! How were you able to keep a job during this period?
So I was actually very functional, and sometimes I look back and I don't know how. I'm a teacher, and I was very good at my job, but I did a lot of teaching, sitting down, and I think 100% of my energy was getting through that workday, and then I would come home and just do the absolute minimum to get to bed to do it again the next day. So I knew that I could focus all my energy on working, and I still did a decent job. I mean, I do a lot better job now because I have a lot more to offer. But yeah, I was very functional, and I honestly, I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of people that we bump into every day are, addicted to something, and they're very functional and they hide it well.
Yeah, absolutely. When did you decide? So did you get rid of all your addictions at once? The food, the drugs, the booze, or was it one at a time?
Well, it was kind of all progressive. So really, like, people always want to know like the catalyst, and I don't think there was this one like aha moment. But before the whole socks and shoes thing, Heather and I got married super young. We started going out in like, 8th and 9th grade. We were really young. We were high school sweethearts. We got married kind of out of school. So like, her mom was really close to me. My mom was close to her. We spent a lot of time at each other's houses. And so probably, again, like we got a phone call that her mom, she had the flu. She just wasn't getting better. So we decided to, she needed to get checked out. So she went to the doctor, and she was actually diagnosed with leukemia. And so that was a huge hit because, she was an awesome, awesome lady. And I think like the first kind of domino that tipped in my head, she was a very caring person. And I can remember going to visit her in the hospital, and, she could hardly open up her eyes. She was so weak from all the chemo and everything. And I can remember her opening up her eyes, and she's like, "How's your knee?" And it literally crushed me because like, she's trying to hang on just to live through another night, and she's worried about my knee. So I think walking out that night, I got a little glimpse of gratitude that I was going home and she wasn't. And there was 1,000 people in that hospital that would never walk out of there. And I'm walking out. And so my knees were destroyed. My ankles were bad. But I had legs. And there's a lot of people in that hospital that would give anything to have my busted up legs. So I kind of think that like I had, I just picked up some gratitude from that. And I started being around people that are worse off than you. You start appreciating what you do have instead of being bitter for what you don't. So as time went on, we're dealing with her. She's getting sicker and sicker. My father, I thought, he had like a chest cold. He went in to get a chest x-ray. And we found out that he had stage 4 renal cancer that had metastasized. So my dad was my best friend in the whole world, and we did everything together. So just like that, like 2 of our favorite people in the world are terminal. They gave my father 6 months to live, and he made it 6 weeks to the day of his diagnosis, and we lost him. And then, after that, Heather's mom went from leukemia to lymphoma, then to brain cancer. And she fought like a warrior, and she loved life so much, and she lost her battle. So here we are kind of young, and we buried 2 parents, in a very short time from each other. And it really shook our life to the core, So what you're talking about with the socks and shoes, there were a lot of mornings I could not get down to get my socks and shoes on to go to work. So Heather was putting them on one morning, and she would tap the side of my leg when she was done, like you would a little kid. It was not demeaning, but it's just what she did. And I can remember looking down. You could still see that like raw pain. People tell you the pain gets better, but it really doesn't. And you could still see all that fresh in her eyes. And for some reason that morning, I thought she's gonna have to bury me next. Like there's no way I'm gonna live another year. And honestly, like the only reason why I wanted to change anything or try anything was to just put space between funerals, because I knew I wasn't going to last. I mean, I was in some serious trouble with, metabolically, and like, I knew the road I was on. Like I knew where it was going to end. It was going to end shortly. And even if I didn't die, like what was life going to look like a year from now if I can't get my socks and shoes on? So that kind of was another one of the dominoes. And like, honestly, like I never set out to lose weight. I never set out to get healthy. I just wanted to live a little bit longer so she didn't have to plan another funeral.
Wow, that's actually just incredible. And I'm so sorry you both had such profound losses. But in some ways, I'm sure your parents are so proud that their loss was the impetus for both of you changing your life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So there are a lot of people that are watching. Well, first of all, Janine wants to know if you're Canadian.
No, I'm close. So we're about 30 minutes from Canada.
Right, because she says your accent sounds just like hers. But we have a lot of people watching, some that have had gastric bypass and are sorry about it. And what I'm thinking is that, I'm not judging people that had it, but if they're, you're a living example that you can achieve what you've achieved without it. And if you could save future people from having it, I think that would be one of the most wonderful things that I can imagine. So I'm just curious why the doctor refused you for the surgery, because in a way he really did end up saving your life.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I thought about that the other day because someone was asking me this on another interview. And I wonder, like, would I be 400 pounds again? Because it seems to be the pattern after 2 years. But so after I decided I needed to do something, of course, you get all your medical information from YouTube. And I started researching, like rapid weight loss and stuff. And that's when I stumbled upon this bariatric surgery. So I thought it was a great idea. I actually found a company in Buffalo that does it. I went to one of the meetings and I got a big packet of information to fill out, sent it back, the application, everything, and everything was set to go. But all I had to do was get my doctor to basically rubber stamp it. He was just going to sign off on it. So we made an appointment, went in, and when I got there, they took my blood pressure. It was through the roof. And then, but he was more concerned with my pulse. It was 125, and he was freaking out about it. He actually wanted to call 911. So we kind of went back and forth, and he had me like lay on an examination table and just keep breathing real slow. And so we got my heart rate back down. He wanted it down to 100. I like bargained for 110. And that's when I asked him about the surgery. And he had never denied anyone for the surgery. And he told me, he said, you're going to be, you know, the first and possibly the last person I'll ever deny for it. I was too sick. With all the narcotics I had in me, he was really worried about the anesthesia. He was worried if my heart was going to hold up through it. And so he said no. And I was devastated. You know, wow. I thought that was it. I thought that was my saving grace, you know.
Well, I'm so pleased that actually happened. And you say that he actually refers people to you now for help, right?
Yeah. If they actually he has like a waiting period now, and we have some cool stuff going on that we're going to be working together soon too. So I'm going to actually move my classes to his facility. It looks like in the future, so it's pretty exciting.
That's terrific. So Donna, who's watching live, wants to know if you know Dr. Tom Campbell, who is also from Rochester, New York.
I have shared the stage with him a couple of times, and you know, just basically, you know, shook hands and stuff. But I know of him, and I know he is local. He's about an hour and 10 minutes away from us. Yeah,
because he just became. I actually just interviewed him last week, and he became the medical director of a weight management facility at the hospital, one of the hospitals there. So you guys should meet. That's terrific. Just to switch gears for a minute, I want to make sure, because a lot of times people join in the middle of the broadcast, I want them to be aware that you have this wonderful book called Fat Man's Essential, and it's 40 plant-based recipes. And it's an ebook, guys. I just tend to print everything out. And just looking at the table of contents, the recipes all sound delicious. There's tacos, there's chilies, cheese sauces, you name it. So I tried one recipe. What I love about your recipes, Tim, is that they're simple. And even though I went to culinary school, I don't like complicated recipes. They're simple. They're the way I eat, SOS-free, whole food, plant-based. And so the one I tried, I don't know if you recognize the photo, but it was so easy. It was in the Instant Pot, and it's called Fat Man's Easy Irish Feast. And I got the recipe, and it was delicious. And I love that your recipes are simple, easy, and delicious. So thank you for doing that. And if people want your book, they can go to Amazon, or can they get it on your website as well?
It's on Amazon, and if they'd rather have a PDF, they can email Fat Man Rants, and I send them one for free, so they can do that too.
That's very nice. So Peggy says she's also in the Buffalo area. Do you guys have any meetups or anything like that for people that live near you?
We do. It's the first Saturday of the month. We have a meetup, and we're trying to figure out, we have like email, we have Facebook groups, but I think what we're trying to set up is a Plant Pure pod. We have it set up. We need something that's easy that everyone has access to. And so right now we're in the process of using that for communication. I feel like there's a whole bunch of people out there, but we need to connect them somehow. And I still haven't figured out a way to do that effectively.
Yeah. Well, Sharon McCrae is saying that your book is awesome. So that's wonderful. So may I ask, what do you teach exactly? What you are a teacher, but what are you teaching?
So I teach, actually, it's kind of diverse what I teach, but I teach engineering classes, and they're actually like college level engineering for high schoolers, kind of like AP classes. So that's the majority of my day. I'm teaching, you know, like advanced physics, but then I also teach an automotive class and an aerospace class, which are more traditional. So, yeah.
Now, I assume that if you weighed 400 pounds and you don't anymore, your students must have noticed, or somebody at school must have noticed your profound weight loss. So what's that been like?
That's actually been super cool. So I haven't been 400 pounds in a long time. So like the kids that saw me kids that would have known me at 400 pounds, graduated college, some of them have kids. But most of the kids know my story because it's it's in a lot of local stuff, and they kind of know. But it's cool. And what's happening now is like we're even doing this plant-based challenge at work, so it kind of spills over. And my favorite part about all this at school is the health department has me do 2 presentations for every health class in the building. So basically every student that comes through our school will hear my story. That's one 40-minute presentation of just me sharing my story. And from the nutrition standpoint, of the plant-based nutrition. And then the next day they come in and I do a follow-up on addiction, self-esteem, goal setting, and things like that. So that's like really super cool to me. And the district's awesome about they get me a substitute so I can do that. And it's great.
That's fantastic. So I love that you're able to take your success and pay it forward to the kids, because that's there could be a future Tim in one of your classes that you're changing the entire trajectory of these kids' lives by sharing your story and who you are with them.
Right. And I'm not judgy or anything when they're in my room, because they're always eating in my room and stuff like that. But what is cool is they'll come in with like hummus and carrots and they'll, hey, Kaufman, check this out. So they get kind of excited about it too. So it's neat.
That's amazing. So what would you like to talk about, Tim? Because I know you do a lot of interviews. So is there something particular you'd like? Because a lot of the people that are watching, obviously, are people came from My Ultimate Weight Loss, and they struggle with addiction, specifically food addiction, and it's just hard.
Yeah. So, well, let's go back to when I got denied, because I didn't go plant-based right away. I had no clue what I was doing. Without getting into too much background, I grew up on a farm, avid hunter. We raised most of our own meat. If we didn't raise it, we got it locally here. I processed sometimes 300 pounds of meat in a weekend. My life literally was meat. So I had absolutely no intention of plant-based. I had no clue what a vegan was. Like, this stuff was all like, I grew up on a farm. And so when I got denied for the surgery, I knew that people lost weight by, restricting calories, doing more exercise, the low-fat dairy products. Like, I swapped out, red meat for turkey burgers and things like this. And at 400 pounds, it worked. Like, pretty much anything you do at 400 pounds, you're going to drop weight. But I still felt like crap. And I probably had taken off over 50 pounds just by doing that, just at least by making a conscious effort to know what I was eating. It was the first time I'd ever actually thought about it. And then I was watching Netflix one night and Joe Cross's Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead came on. And I would have never watched that if it weren't for the title, because the only reason why I turned that on is because it described me and where I was.
Title is everything.
Yeah. And I make a joke out of it. Like, in my presentations, I'm like, if Joe Cross would have been putting raccoon turds in that juicer, I'd be eating raccoon poop right now, because I didn't care what he was doing. I just wanted the results that he had. But so I went on a juice fast. In January 1st was coming around. So I went on a juice fast. It would have been coming up on 6 years ago. And the first 3 days were hell. Like, they were terrible. I was so hungry and I had no clue what I was doing. We had never shopped. If we shopped, it was like out of the freezer section for like pizza rolls or whatever. So we had no clue what we were doing. But if the one thing that came out of that, I had to learn how to shop for produce. And that was something that was very strange for us. So, if you've ever made juice before, it takes a lot of produce to make juice. And, I was a big guy, so I needed a lot of juice. So I came home with a bag of groceries, put it through the juicer, and I got like a half cup of juice. So
it's crazy how much money it's healthy, but like, you're right, it's unsustainable. People could not afford it.
Right. So by day 3, the kind of hunger went away. By day 5, I started feeling better. I actually slept through the night for the first time in forever. And then, like, by day 7, like, I was forgetting to take my medicine, my anti-inflammatories. I started feeling better. I was waking up before my alarm. It wasn't as hard to get out of bed. Weight obviously was dropping off me. And I felt great. Like, I got really excited because I saw results. But at the same time, I realized that this is totally unsustainable. So because I watched that, Forks Over Knives came up in my queue for Netflix. And that film, like, it didn't just save my life. It gave me a completely new life. Like, that was, that was monumental. And so basically after I watched that, first of all, I was very angry. I just watched two of my favorite people on the planet die from cancer. And then you got Dr. Campbell saying that he can turn cancer on and off. I was super frustrated, super angry. And I can remember thinking that either this film is total garbage or somebody should go to prison because something's wrong with the system. So basically out of that, I wasn't really into Facebook. I didn't have any information other than those two films. So I did what I could do with the two films or what I took away from them. And basically I ate what I was putting in the juicer. So I ditched the meat and the dairy, and I did, through the next few months, I did cheat a couple times with the dairy, and I thought it was a coincidence. Like I would have like a piece of cheese and all of a sudden, I would get the sinuses back, my allergies, my eyes would be all blurry in the morning. My joints would ache. My eczema would come back. I'd start itching again. And I'm like, okay, it's just a coincidence. And then like a couple months would go by and I'd have another piece of cheese. And after the third time, I'm like, this is not a coincidence. Like this stuff, there's something to it. So, like I screwed up all along the way. It wasn't like instant. I was still eating like corn chips and stuff. I didn't know what vegan really meant. So I didn't get into all the vegan cheeses and all that kind of stuff. But little by little, I cleaned up my diet, got rid of the oil, the coconut oil. We were big time into that for a while. I was still doing eggs because we had our own chickens. But after about a year or so, I got all that processed crap out of my diet. The weight fell off and got rid of all my medicines. And my cholesterol's 112 now instead of 300 something. Yeah.
Yeah. That's absolutely terrific. I just want to read a couple of the comments that we're getting. I don't know if you can see them, but Nalita says, Tim and Heather are awesome people. They drove 7 hours each way to visit us twice and also ran as guides for my family members who are blind. The epitome of compassion and love and living out the plant-based lifestyle. So we're getting a lot of people, a lot of your friends and fans are watching. So I just wanted to read that to you in case you didn't see it. So thank you for that. I love how you put it the second to last line in your book. Results are very typical. That's it's true. It absolutely is true.
Right, for sure.
So I might have to interview your wife to find out more about her story, but she's had a profound success story as well. And so your whole family eats this way, right? Now they do.
Yeah, basically, so my kids are older. My son is 24, so he doesn't live with us, but he eats a vegan diet. My daughter eats a 95% vegan diet. She gets a little bit into the vegan junk food a little bit, the processed stuff. But yeah. And so really there were so many like accidents that, kind of set up so I still have Ehlers-Danlos. My joints are really stretchy. I still have the disease. It's actually been bugging me pretty good for the last couple months here. I run now, which I wasn't supposed to be walking. I was supposed to be in a wheelchair. So we took off, I started walking. The first walk I ever took wasn't even a mile and I had to get a ride back. And, so slowly, progressively, I ran a 5K with my wife, then a 10K, then it turned into half marathons, then full marathons. I did a 50-mile ultra a couple months ago, and I finished a half Ironman. So all that stuff is not what people with EDS are supposed to be doing. But what happened is my diet was anti-inflammatory, and no one had ever told me that. So it basically took most of the inflammation away from my joints, which let my joints move farther and get more range of motion. And the exercise, or what started out as just walking, built muscles around where my joints were failing. My muscles could take over. So those two things kind of came together with the plant-based and the fitness. And even though I have EDS, 90% of my symptoms are gone. And, not only can I live like a normal life, like I have a 500-pound deadlift, and, I can run a marathon kind of at will. And I think that's like the coolest thing ever.
Wow. This EDS, does it make you extra flexible? Like, can you do like really cool yoga things? Like,
but it's gross. Yeah.
Well,
so like, I don't know if I can get this on the camera, but like, basically, I don't know if you can see that. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really weird.
Oh, hey, you know what? If this plant-based teaching thing doesn't work out, you might be able to get a job at the circus, right?
Yeah, well, that's where I was, like, in the beginning. Well, see, when I was a kid, it was really fun to dislocate and people would get all grossed out. But I learned that you shouldn't do that.
Yeah. So we have a question live from Shayna, and she says, it hurts when you first start exercising. How did you deal with that since you were already maxed out on pain pills?
Yeah, the pain was intense, but this is the way I looked at it. So I have kind of a weird way to think, and it might sound a little different, but when I sat on the couch, and I don't think this is just exclusive to chronic joint condition, but when you sit and you seize up, you're in pain. So I was in pain all the time. I was in pain 24/7, and I sat on the couch. I did what the doctors told me to do. Do as little as you possibly can. You're on limited time with the joints. Do the minimum, and that's what I did. And I was in pain 24/7. So if I could get up and move, I'm still going to be in pain. That didn't change. The difference was the pain. The more I did, the less and less the pain got. So, are you in pain from not exercising? Is that because you lost all the lubrication in your joints and all that kind of stuff? Or, it's the more I did, the less pain I was in. Now, pain will come, but it's very temporary. So I guess it's a matter of choose your pain.
Right. Right. One of the things I found so funny in one of your interviews, you were saying the last time you had meat, it was pickled herring. Now, I haven't eaten meat in 41 years, but I can tell you that would not be the last thing that I would eat. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I really wasn't planning any of this. Like, if I would have had a steak or something, but I wasn't. None of this was planned. And like, all my friends, all my community, that's our whole life revolved around me. And then all of a sudden, like, I didn't set out to like be plant-based. It just, the cool thing about how we live is everything that you look for, like in a diet, as far as health goes, it's all going to steer you back to plant-based. There's a whole bunch of ways to get here. If you go try to find, say, a nutrient-dense diet, it's going to take you plant-based. If you try to find anti-inflammatory diet, it's going to be plant-based. Like, whatever you find, even as far as gluten-free, people ask me, are you gluten-free? I'm like, well, not really on purpose, but yeah, I kind of am, like, by default. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of like a catch-all. Like, everything that you do in health is going to steer you back to that plant-based.
Yeah. Is there nothing the plant-based diet cannot do? So we have a couple of questions. Mariah says she sees your medals behind you. I'm guessing those are for races.
Yeah. So, well, Heather's actually, some of those are Heather's, actually, quite a few now, but again, something that I never plan on. I never had any, I played some football in high school. Never had, why would you run? Like, why would you have all these perfectly good vehicles around you and run? Like, who does that? Everyone looks mean and miserable when they run. Like, I don't want that. But something happened. I ran my first 5K with Heather, and it was the most beautiful experience we ever had. We worked so hard, and it just kind of kept growing. And, self-esteem. You work really hard for something. I think we're missing that in society, especially with kids. And adults, we feel like we get to this age where it's time to just like throw the bus in neutral. But there's something to be said about setting a goal, working hard, and accomplishing it. And when you do that, it builds your self-esteem. Your how you feel about yourself, how you value yourself should come from you and not how many likes you get on social media. And in my mind, the best way to do that is setting goals, working hard, and accomplishing them. And I think it would take care of a lot of other, problems too in the world.
Mm-hmm. So Colleen wants to know, what are all your doctors saying now?
My doctors are really cool. I don't see them much anymore. I see a doctor about once a year to basically check my B12. But yeah, they're totally on board. And like I said, my doctor built a new facility And so we were just there a couple weeks ago, and I said, so when are you going to start letting me teach nutrition here? And he goes, how many people you want? When do you want to start? So
that's so amazing.
Yeah. And it'll be cool because I can get numbers then. Like I do community ed after school. So locally, I have like a level 1 and a level 2 class. Mostly it's a cooking class. And I didn't think it would turn out that way, but it seems, and that's where that ebook came from, because people just like, in my mind, like you can't cube up potatoes and shake them in some spices and bake them, but that seems to be helping people more than the lecturing and the science and all that. So that's where I am right now.
Well,
And
that's great. Yeah, because you can't, I remember saying once to Dr. Campbell when I had dinner with him, I said, the science is great, but you can't eat the science. The practical is just as important, and for some people more important than the why. They need the how.
Right. And I think we forget that, because like I've been doing this long enough that like I don't even know what I'm cooking. I open the fridge and I'm like, okay, I got some celery that's kind of getting weird, and I just throw together whatever, and then I'll post it on Instagram and like, recipe please, and I'm like, there's no recipe. You put this in the Instapot, turn it on, and it comes out food. Like there's no recipe. But
yeah. Thank you, Tim, for saying that, because as somebody that's written 2 books, it takes forever to write a recipe, especially because I believe that you probably eat like me. We eat simply. You just eat food. You don't really need a recipe.
Yeah, and we have this big ordeal, and that's another reason why I put that out, because we have this big ordeal when it's time. Like if I'm going to cook for a cooking class, Heather will, like, if I put a green pepper in, then she puts a green pepper aside. And if I put an onion in, then she puts an onion. And then we have to reverse engineer the whole thing, write it down, and then I take it to class.
Right.
So, and it's a pain to write recipes, because it
really is. Michelle wants to know if Heather was all in when you made the decision to become plant-based.
No. And that's actually super cool too, because I think, so people see us now. So we lost almost 200, I think almost 290 pounds together. Wow. And so people see that, and they see us on Facebook with these pretty pictures, while we're running and that. But what people have to understand, they always say, well, if my spouse would do X, then I could do this. Or if my spouse will go plant-based, then I could. But you can't think like that. You can't think like that in a marriage, and you have to be an individual. And like the way I always thought of it is, if Heather would have jumped on board right away, we would have talked each other out of it, like instantly. It works that way with running. I'll get up in the morning, I don't want to run. She does. I can talk her out of it, like instantly. Right. And she can do the same thing. So when I wrote a blog about this, that, back 10 years ago, we got really big together. We ate pizza together as a team. We did, we watched movies together as a team. We sat out on the couch the whole weekend, just downing like ice cream and pizza. We did that as a team. Now, we eat really well as a team. We teach other people how to eat really well as a team. We run together as a team. So this whole teamwork thing can go both ways. We have twice as many chances to succeed, but we also have twice as many chances to fail. So that said, when I went, I don't even want to say I went plant-based. When I started the juice fast and then went to forks over knives, my family was not doing it with me, but they didn't think it was a thing. I think Heather thought I was going to try it and then, go on to something else. I did Atkins. That was pretty much the only diet that I ever did, which was a dream, bacon and cheese. But so like they would start stealing my food. They would still get the pizza and wings that we were used to. And honestly, when they saw me getting healthier, they would order a salad with it. But they would be stealing my baked potato wedges and stuff. And so probably, I don't know, I was probably maybe 2.5 to 3 years into it. And then Heather jumped on board with me, which was super cool. And I think it worked well because I was able to become stronger because I was kind of on doing it alone. Not that she didn't support me, but then she actually did this 100% for medical reasons. She had some medical issues, and when she went into the hospital, she had like all these, flashbacks to her mom being in the hospital. And she said, if I have any control, anything I can do in my power to stay out of this hospital, I'm going to do it. And she literally flipped a switch. And, then I caught her, a week later, she's like, that has salt in it, right? And I'm like, chill out. Yeah. So it's a really cool thing. So now we're both, 100% plant-based, and it's great.
Right. But even if she didn't join you at first, she wasn't trying to sabotage you.
No, never.
That's fantastic. So Sharon has a great question. She says, when you first made the change to a plant-based diet, what were your greatest sources of support, and what were your biggest obstacles in maintaining your dietary lifestyle?
So again, because I think kind of different, I never looked at it as motivation. I get kind of upset with people sometimes because they're always like post before and afters for I need motivation. I didn't really need support. I didn't need motivation because I knew that this was working. And for me to be a good husband, a good father, and a good person, I need to do this. Like it wasn't like I didn't need support. I needed to get to work. It's kind of, I feel like support and motivation are kind of the same thing. Community right now is everything to me, and I'm trying to build it, and it's a super big help. But at the same time, I think sometimes we lean on it a little bit too much. And what I mean by that is there's certain things in life that we don't need motivation for, right? Like, so if I told my kid to do their homework tonight and they said, yeah, I'm not really motivated, that's not going to fly. If my mortgage company calls and says you owe us some mortgage payment, and I'm like, yeah, not really motivated. I don't have the support to pay it. Like, that's not going to fly either. So for me, this is something I have to do. It's my job. So I don't need motivation. It's just how I live. It's my responsibility in a way. So I didn't have so much support. I was kind of on an island for a long, long time. I don't know if that answers the question.
Okay. But she also wants to know if you experienced any obstacles in maintaining your weight loss and your lifestyle, addiction free.
Honestly, this sounds terrible. It almost sounds fake. I've never actually been asked that. No. I mean, I guess you could say obstacles look different now. Like obstacles now are, like nuts and seeds. Some people would think it's ridiculous, but that kind of stuff. Grains are kind of a challenge for me. I overeat grains. So my obstacles and challenges look 100% different than they used to. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure obstacles probably starting out, I had a different attitude, maybe not seeing results like I thought I should. Was kind of a big one. The other thing too is when you lose a substantial amount of weight, there's obviously a lot of skin that goes along with it and extra skin. So I don't know if it's an obstacle, but it is definitely disappointing to work really hard, lifting weights and working out, and then look in the mirror and you don't see what you feel like you should see because you worked for. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. So, we have people watching that actually have also been turned down for gastric bypass surgery, and they may not realize what a blessing it is. So what advice would you have for people, or what advice do you have for people that maybe are in the same shoes you found yourself in when you were 400 pounds?
So that's a good question. So I think when someone goes for gastric bypass or whatever the surgery is, the reason why I wanted to do it is because the task of losing 200 pounds or getting to a normal weight is monumental. And I think that is, that's what entices people to that. That's what's so tempting about it, because they can lose all that weight. But I think my advice would be to stop worrying about the 200 pounds or 100 pounds or even 20 pounds and just worry about each meal. Like, just stop even worrying about the weight. Like, to me, if you can get healthy, the weight's going to happen. Like, if you're eating a proper diet and you're really watching that calorie density, the weight's going to come off. And I think what happens is people go crazy trying to, work really hard, starve themselves, and then, they get to a point where they just quit, and then it all comes back. So instead of looking that far out in the future of losing 100 to 200 pounds, just focus on your next plate of food and, keep it as calorie dilute as possible. And by default, you're going to have a lot of nutrients. Greens are huge. Like I try to eat a pound of greens every single day. And greens are really good. Before I eat, I make sure that I eat really calorically dilute food before I eat. And I eat a lot of potatoes. And yeah, so just focus on the next meal, not all the weight.
Right. Well, that's wonderful that you so understand calorie density so well, because I really do think it really almost trumps food addiction. Now, can you maybe just, we're almost out of time, but maybe just quickly go through what a day's worth of food looks like for you, because people always seem to want to know what we eat.
I know, it's crazy. So a lot of times lately, I haven't been eating breakfast because I either swim in the morning or I lift weights every morning. So I find that I'm not that hungry in the morning. And a lot of times I eat just because, I don't know if society, I don't know where people came up with, eat a healthy breakfast, but I don't have time if I want to get to the gym. So sometimes I don't, start, like I might have some fruit or something at like, I don't know, 10 o'clock. Sometimes I'll have fruit and then I put some dry rolled oats on it. I just enjoy that. I eat a lot of potatoes. It's nothing for me and Heather to split a 5-pound bag of potatoes for dinner, if that's what we're eating. And I don't mind them just plain. Like, I don't know. To me, if I'm not hungry enough to eat a potato, then I'm really probably not hungry.
That's what I say about vegetables. I agree with you.
So, and I eat a lot of frozen vegetables. To me, are the easiest because they're fast. I can come home. So, I try to do a lot of like greens, chopped salad. And then for the dressing, because I think a lot of people struggle with the dressing, but most of my dressings are bean based. So it's basically hummus, but it's like thin. So instead of draining, if I do canned beans, which I try to do them in the Instapot, but even the broth from them, I try to keep it a little on the watery side. And then I'll put a couple cloves of garlic in there, and Heather likes dill in there. And then we'll have like a creamy dill dressing. And it's really all we're eating is greens and beans.
Right.
And it's delicious. It's huge amount of volume, huge amount of nutrients, and it's really not too many calories. And we enjoy it. I could eat that every single night. I do a lot of green beans, onions, and nutritional yeast. That's one of my favorite. And I like mushrooms in there as well. I eat really simple. Like people see, I'll make like sloppy joes out of lentils. But the truth is, I would just rather put lentils in the Instapot, and like I don't like even like the veggie burgers now. Like I don't really make them that much. If I'm going to do it, I just eat what's in the veggie burgers.
I know. I agree with you. It's like when I have to make even one of my own recipes, like the veggie burger, I'm like, oh my God, people really do this. It's so hard. It's so much easier to just roast a potato and eat a potato. But
yeah, right.
I think when they're starting out, they do want the more complicated recipes. So Tim, are you worried at all that you could go back to the way you were?
No. I'd rather die. There is no chance. None.
Good.
I don't think I could say that if I had got the surgery. I feel, because I have a lot of friends and I feel terrible because it always feels like this battle. Like I don't feel like I battle with my weight. Like I think even, on plant-based, you could gain weight on a plant-based diet. That's one of the big misconceptions. That's a whole nother show though. Plant-based does not mean that you're not going to get overweight, because we need to get to whole foods. And even then you gotta be careful. But I feel like you can't get to that 400 pounds, like if you're plant-based, unless you're eating processed crap. So I don't know. It would be a whole different question if I had got the surgery. I feel like people struggle so much after they get that.
Yeah. Because they're not really learning how to eat or what to eat, and it's just absolutely. You had mentioned that it's easy for you and your wife to share a 5-pound bag of potatoes, but same here. I mean, that's a serving. That's what, when people don't understand calorie density, 2 pounds is a serving of potatoes, at least in my world. So
right.
Yeah. And Anthea is saying keeping it simple makes it more sustainable. Absolutely. Janine is saying potatoes are her favorite weight loss food. They're just my favorite food, period. So we just have a couple minutes left. Tim, do you want to just leave people with some either words of wisdom or some advice? I mean, obviously you're very inspirational, your story is, but maybe that one person out there that just is in the shoes you were in, where they couldn't even put on their own shoes. What would you say to them?
Well, somebody asked me to sum up my whole journey like in one mantra, and it's, eat plants and move your body. All you got to do is a little more than you did yesterday. And I think it's really that simple. I think we overcomplicate this, and it's really that simple. It's just that next plate of food you got to get to. It's not the 10 pounds, it's not the 20 pounds. And, the other awesome thing about a whole food plant-based diet is that it doesn't matter if you have 400 pounds to lose, 200 pounds to lose, or 30 pounds to lose, or no pounds to lose. It is all the identical process. It's getting educated on what food's good for you, what food's healthy, and then the rest is just a matter of time for your body to catch up to where it needs to be. And that's cool. And anybody can do this. Like I'm telling you, I am the worst candidate for this. I mean, I might be the only vegan in the world that speaks at vegan events that has animals, dead animals tattooed to my body, like legit. I am the most unlikely person in the world for this. So seriously, if I can do that, I'm not just saying it sounds cliche. If I can do this, like anyone can do this.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So I was going to say goodbye on this wonderful note, but a question just came through from Pam, so I thought I'll ask you to answer it. She says her son-in-law needs to lose at least 100 pounds to get his knee surgery. He hates all veggies and potatoes. What would you suggest to him?
I would say to start like in veggies and potatoes. See, it's like the pain. Choose your pain. Which do you not like worse? Do you not like being able to walk or not like vegetables? I would take the vegetables, plug your nose and eat them. Like, see, that's the thing. Everybody wants this pretty picture of motivation, and it's not that. Like, if you want to walk, learn how to eat vegetables. That sounds so mean.
No, it doesn't sound. You don't sound mean at all, actually. And I know you're saying it from a place of love, but you sound a lot like Dr. Goldhammer, and you're speaking the truth. And I think people resonate with the truth.
And a side note of that, like, I have more people actually call me or email me for someone else, and it's terrible. Like, I have a copy and paste message. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, you can't be the one reaching out for someone else.
Right, absolutely.
It's hard, especially with addiction issues. Like, when you have a loved one that's an addict, it is like, it's terrible, but they have to be in a place that they want help, and you can't want it for them. They have to want it themselves and do it themselves.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people, grow up and eat your damn vegetables, or as Dr. Goldhammer says, just suck it up. But I love what you said, Tim, about how it doesn't matter if you have 400 pounds to lose or 40 pounds to lose. We're all eating the same. I mean, the way that I suggest people eat for ultimate weight loss, the way you eat, is how Dr. Goldhammer's eaten for 40 years, and he's never been overweight or an addict. It's just this most sanest, sustainable, best way to eat, just for overall health and longevity. So
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's sure been wonderful getting to know you better, and maybe I can talk to your wife one of these days too. And because everybody's saying, talk to Heather. I'm just kind of finding out about how awesome you guys are, and hopefully our paths will cross in person sometime. And I really appreciate your time. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Healthy Living Live. My guest today is Tim Kaufman. You can find out more about him at fatmanrants.com. or get his book on Amazon, which is called Fat Man's Essential 40 Plant-Based Recipes, and they are delicious. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.